Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris. This is part 2. Disturbing last found footage of missing persons. You see me click that thumbs up on the last one. If you could do that for me, that helps out tremendously. You can subscribe to the channel, and you can donate to the channel through the thanks button. If you do and you request a video, your name will be sponsoring that video. You can still request videos without donating. You just don't get that nice little title. I do say the video was requested, and that's pretty much it. It's a nice little extra added bonus. And I deeply appreciate if you do request, and I deeply appreciate if you request and donate. All right, thumbs up too, please. Subscribing's great. Yeah, that's all of it. And let's get into, this is the third case.
Kaylin Louder. At around 9 p.m. on September 26, 2014, a woman named Kaylin Louder made a panicked 911 call in which she alleged that there was a fight going on inside her condo's clubhouse. When she asked if any weapons had been involved in the fight, she claimed she had heard gunshots. When the cops arrived at the condo, they saw a wedding reception full of happy guests and had trouble believing what Kaylin had told them. According to the police report, one of the guests admitted he had previously lit a firecracker, which Kaylin may have mistaken for a gunshot. Strangely, a few hours later, Kaylin once again called 911, but hung up before the dispatcher picked up. A few minutes later, the cops called her back, and they reported that she sounded pretty confused. Although the cops had trouble understanding what she was saying, Kaylin did confess that her roommate thought she was acting delusional and paranoid. A little after 8 a.m. the next morning, she once again called the cops, and this is a call that is most often referred to as one of the most disturbing recorded 911 calls publicly available. I'll play a fragment of the call so you can hear it for yourself.
When I have an intruder at my house.
Repeat the address for verification.
They're stealing from my house.
Okay, say your address one more time. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Get them out of my house.
Okay, do you know who this person is?
No, I don't. I just know that there's an intruder in my house.
You don't know who they are?
No, I don't.
Were weapons involved or mentioned?
They're not talking or responding. I'm just telling them to leave so I can hear them taking things.
So you haven't seen them, you can just hear them?
Yes, correct.
During the call, Kaylin tells the dispatcher that there's an intruder in her apartment, but then contradicts herself several times and starts saying a bunch of things that just don't make any sense. At one point during the call, Kaylin's roommate Carol walks in her room and sounds pretty confused at the allegations that someone broke into their apartment. A few seconds later, Kaylin explains that the previous night she had seen multiple people stalking her through her window and apparently were planning on breaking in.
Okay, where exactly are you?
I'm in the back bedroom. Karen,
Where did the suspect enter the building?
There's only one door. Get out of my house.
Is there anyone else in the building who belongs there?
Yes, there's 6 apartments.
Okay, is there anybody else in your apartment that should be there?
I believe she is here. I have a roommate. Hey! Karen, lock the door. There's something going on there. Come here. Yeah. They might have left.
Okay, what's going on now? They've left now?
Yeah, so I'm just going to look and see if anything's been taken. Someone opened the door, and I heard them come in. Don't do that, Carol. If the door's still locked, it's not impossible. They must have a key or something. Because when I took the dog out, I heard people talking. And there was people last night, sitting outside the window. And so they, were scoping us out or something. Why is the door still locked? Well, I can't explain that, but I heard, 2 people talking.
Strangely, Carol points out that the door to the apartment is still locked and has been locked all morning, which would obviously make it impossible for someone to break in, but Kaylin still sounds pretty upset and convinced that there was an intruder in the apartment. Even though it was relatively clear from the call that there hadn't been a break-in, the cops still went to Kaylin's residence to make sure she was okay, and once there, they confirmed that there were no signs someone had broken in. Later that day, at around 6 p.m., the condo's security cameras captured Kaylin outside of her apartment, walking barefoot in the rain toward a little creek close to the condo entrance. The footage shows her carrying her dog as she walks back to her apartment from the creek. It's unclear if she's talking to herself or to her dog in the footage, but her behavior definitely seems a little bit off. A few seconds later, she can be seen running back to her apartment, as if she was running away from someone. Tragically, that video was the last time Kaylin was ever seen alive. Later that day, she went missing after leaving her phone, her dog, her shoes, and her wallet at home. During the investigation, her family revealed that she never left her dog Phyllis alone for more than an hour, even taking him along to special events such as weddings and graduations. From the start of the investigation, the cops alleged that Kaylin appeared to be mentally ill. Although police combed the entire area, the initial search for Kaylin was unsuccessful, and it wasn't until 2.5 months later, on December 1st of that year, that her body was discovered by West Valley City work crews looking at a drainage pipe. Disturbingly, the work crew noticed her body sticking out of the water in the middle of the river, partially hidden by plants. But because her body had been decomposing in the water for so long, it took the cops a while to determine her age and gender. And even when they confirmed her identity, it was impossible for them to determine the cause of death, which added another layer of mystery to the case. From the moment the body was discovered, Kaylin's family claimed that foul play had been involved, but this was impossible to confirm due to the level of decomposition in her body. What's strange about this case is that her body was found pretty far away from where the authorities speculated she had accidentally fallen into the creek and drowned. The river she allegedly fell into is pretty shallow, and even with the heavy rain, it seems unlikely that her body could have been carried all the way to where it was found without getting snagged on a branch or stuck in the mud. Even though the authorities chalked up the whole thing to an accidental drowning that stemmed from what they assumed to be a psychotic break, there are a lot of details in the case that simply don't add up. For starters, Kaylin didn't really have a history of mental illness. Although she was finding it hard to find a job and had allegedly been a little down for a few months according to her father's testimony, pretty much everyone else in her life had described her as stable and relatively happy. However, earlier in 2014, Kaylin had gotten a job at a school but was let go a few months later, which, according to her dad, made her a little depressed. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, she had been rejected from another job opportunity, which probably didn't do wonders for her emotional state. I was able to find that there had been some events in Kaylin's past that may have contributed to her deteriorating mental state. 3 years after she graduated from college in 2006, her twin brother accidentally murdered their uncle while they were both under the influence of drugs, for which he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Even though the incident obviously shook her up, she remained pretty stable and never showed signs of her mental health deteriorating, at least not to the point where it would seem normal for her to suddenly start making disturbing 911 calls where she appeared to be delusional. From what I found, there are two main theories to explain what happened to Kaylin. The first theory is that Kaylin suffered from a sudden psychotic break due to all the stress she was under from not being able to find a job. The investigators who proposed this theory claim that Kaylin probably walked barefoot in the rain until she was so tired that she fell into the river. This is definitely a possibility, but one thing that stands out to me about this theory is that nobody reported seeing Kaylin walking around on the street on the day of her disappearance. The second theory is that even if Kaylin was a little paranoid, she wasn't wrong about someone wanting to harm her, and if she truly was being stalked by someone on the night before she called 911 to report the supposed gunfight, they may have gotten to her before the cops could intervene. Still, based on her roommate's testimony, it's possible that Kaylin was really just imagining the whole thing due to her worsening mental state, but we'll likely never know. The case just left dozens of big unanswered questions. For starters, who was Kaylin really talking to in the surveillance video? Was it just her dog? Was she talking to herself? Or was she talking to someone else? Why was she walking barefoot in the rain in the first place? And if she was paranoid and delusional, what could have triggered her mental breakdown? With over 10 years having gone by since the incident, it's very likely that whatever happened to Kaylin Lauder on the evening of September 26, 2014 will remain a mystery.
I've seen a little bit about that one, but it didn't go into as much detail as this. It was more of what happened to her. And I don't remember the phone call thing the night before. I don't remember it, though. Could have seen it.
Dale Kerstetter. On September 12, 1987, a 50-year-old security guard and maintenance man named Dale Kerstetter went to work as he usually did at the Corning Glass Works plant in Bradford, Pennsylvania. At 11 p.m., he began his night shift as a weekend security guard. The next morning, at around 7 a.m., the day shift security guard named John Lindquist came to relieve Dale from his shift, but he was nowhere to be found. John immediately went to the cafeteria to see if Dale was there, but the only thing he found was Dale's lunchbox with his food still inside. Strangely, a few minutes later, Dale's truck was found in the parking lot of the plant with his keys, a pack of cigarettes, his backpack, and an empty pistol holster still inside the truck. Sensing something was wrong, the cops brought search dogs to the plant to find Dale. A few minutes later, the dogs traced Dale's scent to the second floor, where the plant's glass furnace was located, along with some pretty valuable platinum pipes. This was pretty strange considering that Dale rarely went to that part of the building and had no business going near the pipes. That's when the plant manager decided to check the security footage from the night before, and what he found was pretty disturbing. The footage you're seeing now is the original footage of the incident, which is now extremely grainy due to the slow deterioration process of the old footage, and it's pretty much useless for the purposes of this video. The video you're about to see is a reenactment of the footage, which is supposed to be perfectly accurate as per my research. In the footage, the manager saw a masked man walking around the plant, apparently scouting the building. Shortly after, the man ran up to the second floor of the plant where the highly valuable platinum pipes were located. A few seconds after this, Dale can be seen speaking to the masked man while he appears to be coerced out of the room, and as the masked man drags him out of the room by the arm, Dale looks straight at the security camera. At one point in the footage, the masked man can be seen dragging a heavy bag out of the building with a manual forklift. That night, $250,000 worth of platinum pipes were stolen from the plant, and Dale Kerstetter was never seen or heard from again. In the aftermath of the mysterious disappearance, several theories were brought up to explain whether Dale was an innocent victim or an inside man in the high-stakes robbery. According to Dale's family, it would have been extremely unlike him to participate in a crime like this because he just wasn't that type of guy. He was
$250,000 gives you $125,000. You are not living out on the lam, right? You're not running away to some new life with $125,000. It's not happening. Unless you're going to be living off the grid where you're barely spending any money, you're not doing that. So more than likely he was killed. I mean, that's the only option that I can see.
Described as an honest, loyal, family-loving, and fun-loving man who just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. It's possible that Dale might have spotted the masked man at some point during his shift, and when he went to investigate, the man may have coerced him into cooperating and then murdered him. If this theory is to be believed, then the bag that the man was hauling out of the building with a forklift could have contained Dale's body along with the platinum pipes. But other employees at the plant seem to have a completely different opinion based on their experience of Dale. For starters, whoever removed the platinum from the tank was very familiar with the layout of the plant. They knew exactly where the most valuable materials in the plant were, as well as all the tools they would need to extract the platinum pipes from the tank and quickly exit the tank area. Even though Dale had never stolen anything and was generally a good person, he had gotten into trouble several times with his employers for being a slow worker and having a bad attitude. In the investigation, it was also revealed that Dale was around $40,000 in debt after being demoted from his job as a trade worker at the plant, which meant he not only needed money at the time of the robbery, but wasn't at all happy with his employers after he was forced to take a $7,000 pay cut. This led some people to believe that he may have been in on the crime, which would explain how the masked man knew his way around the plant so well. Still, his family claims he would have had several other legal ways of obtaining the money before resorting to a high-stakes, premeditated robbery and disappearance without a trace. One of the things that makes the disappearance so ambiguous is Dale's behavior in the security camera footage. For starters, it's hard to tell if he was truly being forced to walk out of the room with the man, or if he was just pretending to be coerced. And when he looks up at the camera, it's really anyone's guess if he was silently begging for help, or if he was performing a sort of gesture of defiance toward his former employers. To this day, it's unknown if Dale was murdered after being the unwilling witness of a crime, or if he was an inside man who left his entire family behind for money.
Yeah, being in debt 40,000. Okay, red flag. But I don't see. So his 125 now would be 85. That's not enough to go on and start a new life. That's not enough to, like, you know, it's that's not worth it. It's just not worth it in the end. If we're talking about he's going to walk away with $13 million, and let's say he's 50, yeah, that's probably worth it. Because you could live off $13 million if you figure he's 50, he's going to live until 75, we'll say. Unless you really do blow it. You can live comfortably on 13 million. Let me just do some quick. Just bear with me. So if you're going to live an additional 25 years, could you live comfortably on spending about $520,000? That would be your yearly budget. Yeah. So that I could see if we're talking 13 million. And I just picked 13 million as some random number. But no, not 85,000, we're just going to say, at 25 years? No. Not happening. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed it in terms of curiosity and interest in, you know, true crime type of stuff, like what happened. But, you know, not for what happened to them. You understand what I'm saying. So until next time, have a good day, have a good night.